Mark Zuckerberg recently went on Alex Friedman's podcast and gave a reaction to the Apple Vision Pro. Now, if you guys tuned in earlier this week or you were familiar with the presentation that Apple put together and all of the different products that they dropped, Apple recently dropped a headset that they're coming out with early next year. That's going to cost about $3,500. I reacted to it. I also gave you my insights as to what it is that you guys need to look at as far as what's going to be disrupted within the industry. But also on top of that, what you didn't know if you're not paying attention, and I pay attention to all this stuff, Mark Zuckerberg actually had dropped the Quest 3 and details about the Quest 3. I have the Quest 2, but he dropped the details about the Quest 3 and what his vision was for augmented reality and virtual reality, and continuing to trudge forward as far as believing that people are at some point going to largely leave their computers alone and stuff like that. But he jumped on Alex Friedman's podcast to give his thoughts on the Vision Pro. And I want to share that with you guys before we get into Gilbert Arenas, before we get into Mary J. Blige, and before I open up the chat for you guys to be able to cam up and ask whatever question you want to ask. So make sure you hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and then turn on your notifications. Let's go ahead and get into this video and then react to what it is that he has to say.
I have to ask, Apple just announced a mixed reality headset called Vision Pro for $3,500, available in early 2024. What do you think about this headset?
Well, I saw the materials when they launched. I haven't gotten a chance to play with it yet, so kind of take everything with a grain of salt. But a few high-level thoughts. I mean, first, I do think that this is a certain level of validation for the category, right? Where, when we were the primary folks out there before saying, hey, I think that this, virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, this is going to be a big part of the next computing platform. I think having Apple come in and share that vision will make a lot of people who are fans of their products really consider that.
So the first thing that he's saying is, listen, I haven't got a chance to play with it, and I'm gonna break it down. You know me, I'm breaking it down from a C student's perspective. Shout out to my dog Ash. I see you just pulled up in the chat. The first thing that he's saying is, listen, this is actually a good thing for us. This is a good thing for us. Now take it to mean whatever it is that you want it to mean, but this is the context of why he's saying it's good for us. He said it's good for us because for us to be the only player in the space is not good. Because we can't reach the entire demographic or audience that would then embrace this on a worldwide scale, on a larger scale. So in order for this thing to be embraced, and in order for developers to then develop applications that go along with it, in order for the general population to start adopting it, we need other players to actually justify the space in this world in which we're already a part of, that Apple is now joining, right? And so he's saying that with the adoption on a larger scale, not only will they benefit, but we'll benefit also, because people will be looking for products not just from them, but also across the board. So if you are a player in this space, then it actually validates it when Apple decides to jump into it, because now everybody has to participate in it. Now, whether or not he can participate and he can really become the competition for Apple in which they can benefit financially across the board, and we can get into all of the ways in which they can benefit financially, remains to be seen. But he's saying that this is a good thing because it actually gives validation of what we've been doing for a long time. Shout out to Bam Bam Lynch. Definitely going to be reading that super chat throughout the show. Let's continue, y'all.
And then, of course, the $3,500 price, on the one hand, I get it with all the stuff that they're trying to pack in there. On the other hand, a lot of people aren't going to find that to be affordable. So I think that there's a chance that them coming in actually increases demand for the overall space, and that Quest 3 is actually the primary beneficiary of that.
Because everybody is not going to have the ability to be able to spend $3,500 on Apple's Vision Pro. He's 100% correct about that. And I don't know what Apple's long-term strategy. We can all guess. We can all assume that just like they did with the Apple Watch, in which this is an Apple Watch Ultra, But then if you got the Apple Watch SE, and then you just got the Apple Watch and all of this other type of stuff, and just like they did with the cell phones, in which you can go and get a MacBook Pro 16-inch, you can get a MacBook Air, you can get all of the different versions of it, which is the lower tiers after they've released the higher tiers. The same thing that they did with their computers, the same thing that they did with the iPads, in which you can get the iPad Pro, you can get the iPad Air, you can get the iPad Mini, right? All across the board, what Apple has done is create a halo product that is the best of its class. And then ultimately, they start to scale down to where they make it available to everybody. But based off of what's being presented right now, what they're saying is at $3,500, everybody can participate. Everybody can play in this space. So that creates even more opportunity for us, because people that want to embrace this next level of computing and gaming and experiences, then we can also fill that niche. We can also fill that void. But again, we don't know what Apple has planned long term, but he's absolutely right in that. And that the overall adoption of the product within the space actually benefits them if they're already a player, or they're already looking to be a player in that space.
Because a lot of the people who might say, "Hey, this, I like, I'm going to give another consideration to this," or now I understand maybe what mixed reality is more, and Quest 3 is the best one on the market that I can afford, and it's great also, right? I think that's and in our own way, I think there are a lot of features that we have where we're leading on, so I think that I think is going to be that could be quite good. And then obviously over time, the companies are just focused on somewhat different things, right? Apple has always, I think, focused on building really kind of high-end things, whereas our focus has been on we have a more democratic ethos. We want to build things that are accessible to a wider number of people.
And the reason why he's saying this, and he's absolutely correct, the reason why he's saying that their ethos, or the target demographic of how it is that they put out their products, is much different, is because the way in which they make their money is much different. See, Apple doesn't have a social media platform. Apple is the ecosystem by which social media platforms exist. They want to sell products. They want you to become a part of their ecosystem, in which, if you have the Apple iPhone, then you would also want to have the watch, which is incredibly compatible. If I have the iPhone, usually I'm recording video on my iPhone, but then I just airdrop it over into my Apple MacBook Pro in order to be able to quickly edit it. And plus, I have cloud, because I have Apple's iCloud, which allows for me to be able to back this up, but also ports over into this particular device, depending on what it is that I do, right? And then on top of that, right, you got the App Store, you got Apple Fitness Plus, you got Apple Care, so on and so forth. So the target demographic of customers based off of who they're selling their products to is what he's saying is completely different, right? Because they want to create the App Store. They want to be a part of the ecosystem. They also want you to adopt specific products. But what Meta is doing is that they want you to be a part of their universe, right? And that they want to be able to sell advertising based off of you participating in this particular sphere that allows for you to be able to interact with your friends more effectively, whether that be Instagram, whether that be WhatsApp, whether that be Facebook, so on and so forth. So they are two technology companies that also are interdependent on each other in order to be successful, but not enough to where it actually infringes completely on each other's customers. Whereas Google kind of plays in both spaces, right? Let's continue.
We've sold tens of millions of Quest devices. My understanding, just based on rumors, I don't have any special knowledge on this, is that Apple is building about 1 million of their device, right? So just in terms of like what you kind of expect in terms of sales numbers, I just think that this is, Quest is going to be the primary thing that people in the market will continue using for the foreseeable future. And then obviously over the long term, it's up to the companies to see how well we each executed the different things that we're doing. But we kind of come at it from different places. We're very focused on social interaction, communication, being more active, right? So there's fitness, there's gaming, there are those things. Whereas I think a lot of the use cases that you saw in in Apple's launch material were more around, people sitting, people looking at screens, which are great. I think that you will replace your laptop over time with a headset, but I think in terms of kind of how the different use cases that the companies are going after, they're a bit different for where we are right now.
Yeah, so their gaming wasn't a big part of the presentation, which is interesting. It feels like mixed reality gaming such a big part of that. It was interesting to see it missing in the presentation.
Well, I mean, look, there are certain design trade-offs in this where, I think they made this point about not wanting to have controllers, which on the one hand, there's a certain elegance about just being able to navigate the system with eye gaze and hand tracking. And by the way, you'll be able to just navigate Quest with your hands too, if that's what you want.
Listen, my prediction is that Quest eventually will do away with the controllers. I have Quest. My daughter have a Quest. We got the latest version of Quest, and I guarantee you that they're going to eventually do away with controllers once we see the only difference, right? And the only drawback that I see from Apple, as far as not having controllers, is that you have no haptic feedback. You have no actual thing that you press in to confirm or so on and so forth. But what Apple likes to do is they like to train you in the way that you should use their products, which then create the expectation of how it is that you interact with other products. It's a phenomenal way in which they train people to do things. The swipe ups, swipe downs, the expectation of how it is that you use a specific device, being able to easily airdrop certain things, right? How it is that you look at it in landscape versus looking at it in portrait mode. So I guarantee you, and that's why he's setting the expectation now, that eventually the Quest and other headsets or whatever players jump into the space will eventually get rid of the controllers also.
Yeah, one of the things I should mention is that the capability from the cameras to with computer vision to detect certain aspects of the hand, allowing you to have a controller that doesn't have that ring thing.
Yeah, like, the hand tracking in Quest 3 and the controller
really nice.
tracking is a big step up from the last generation. And one of the demos that we have is basically an MR experience teaching you how to play piano, where it basically highlights the notes that you need to play, and it's like it's hands, it's no controllers. Mm-hmm. But I think if you care about gaming, having a control.
There's somebody in the chat that's really looking to get my attention, right? And he's saying, yeah, most of these YouTubers, they just give basic knowledge, especially with regard to their courses and all of this other type of stuff. Let me be clear. I don't sell a course. I give real life experience based off of what it is that I've done in real life, right? There is no basic information. It's real life hacks. And the way that I substantiate that is not only do I show people, I also allow for them to be able to come up on my webinars to ask me questions. And then I show them. I show them my back end. I show them how much money I make. And then I substantiate how I'm able to exercise these things, such as the additional monetization in which other YouTubers are not able to do, by also giving them the game and giving them real insight and information into how to do it. So to come in and then to have an assumption without actually having an experience is completely false. And that don't even just apply to content. It applies to what it is that I do from a real estate perspective. It applies what I do as far as how it is that I store my money and how I invest my money, what my brokerage accounts look like, how it is that you need to be leveling up in corporate America, and how you can leverage certain things and marketing tools in order to do that, how to also market yourself effectively, bringing professionals in to answer the questions from people. So I am a holistic approach to how it is that you're supposed to live your life. Please don't compare me, and please don't come in assuming and then grilling my people based off of what you think you know. If you don't know, then just stay not knowing and pay attention and enjoy the entertainment aspect of it. But the other side of it, and this is just me being nice, the other side of it is they understand the inherent value of what it is that they get, as well as me investing in their businesses and giving them seed money in order to illustrate and exercise the things that I'm teaching them inside of our bag chasers, all right? And that ain't even including me meeting them in person and kicking it with them. So you're going to have to stay in your lane, big dog. We different over here. It's a whole nother wave in which we've created a group and a network of people that's going in a specific direction. Ain't nothing basic about what the fuck we do inside of our thing over here. All right. So Keep it G. Enjoy the show, and let's continue with what Mr. Zuckerberg is talking about right here. All right.
Controller allows you to have a more tactile feel
Mhm.
and allows you to capture fine motor movement much more precisely than what you can do with hands without something that you're touching. So again, I think it's there are certain questions which are just around what use cases are you optimizing for.
Mhm.
I think if you want to play games, then I think then I think you want to design the system in a different way, and we're more focused on kind of social experiences, entertainment experiences. Um, Whereas if what you want is to make sure that the text that you read on a screen is as crisp as possible, then you need to make the design and cost trade-offs that they made that lead you to making a $3,500 device. So I think that there is a use case for that for sure, but I just think that the companies we've basically made different design trade-offs to get to the use cases that we're trying to serve.
There's a lot of other stuff I would love to talk to you about the metaverse, especially the Kodak Avatar, which I've gotten to experience a lot of different variations of recently that I'm really, really excited
Yeah, I'm
about.
excited to talk
But
about that too.
I'll have to wait a little bit because well, I think there's a lot more to show off in that regard.
I think that similar to what I illustrated earlier, I think that Mark Zuckerberg and these people really don't sleep. I honestly don't believe that they sleep well. I don't think that Elon Musk sleeps well. I don't think that Tim Cook sleeps well. I don't think that Mark Zuckerberg sleeps well. I don't think that any of these CEOs or directors or executive vice presidents or anybody, the chief technology officers, I don't think that any of these people are sleeping well at night. And it's impossible for them to be able to sleep well at night because you're constantly in a race with another technology company that is looking to take market share from you and encroach on what it is that you have going on inside of your company. And so I think he sees this as both an opportunity, but he also understands the impact that this can have on Meta specifically, especially with all of the billions of dollars that they're burning on trying to build out their own ecosystem and metaverse, and then getting this quest out to the people. Let me also say this: most times, let me get the disruption out. We're not even gonna deal with it. Most times, what you start to see is a lot of these companies don't necessarily make money off the headsets themselves. Apple, I think, is going to make money off the headsets, but it's really just going to be a recoup because they've been developing this product for years. Okay, Apple is not going to make money off the headsets, but the problem with it is they're using it as a loss leader in order to get you immersed into the ecosystem. So what they'll do is that they'll put the product out for you for cost or less than cost, in order to get you to adopt the technology so that you can then become immersed in what it is that they got going on from an ecosystem perspective. It's largely why you've never had to pay for an application as far as social media, because if they can give you the application for free, they can figure out how to monetize it on the back end. Apple is going to get their money on the front end. Meta is looking to get their money on the back end, and that can come in the form of advertisers, that can come in the form of sponsorships, that can come in the form of adoption, right? Because once you get adoption, then you can start to charge what it is that you want for people to be able to use the platform effectively or to get whatever it is product that's out to them, right? Product placement, so on and so forth. So it's two different strategies, but I'm interested to see how it plays out. I have my money, full disclosure, invested in both companies. I am invested in Meta heavily, and I am more invested in Apple. Obviously, I'm always going to be invested in Apple, and so I think that it's a very interesting time in which we live in.